So, good morning. I'd actually like to start this discussion this morning by asking everybody who was at Jameson's last night to stand up. Okay, now everybody who's standing, I have a special charge for you. When I get done, I would like you to connect what Norman Crowley said last night to what I'm getting ready to talk about. And I want you to pick one of the people who's sitting down, and I want you to describe that for them. And I want to see whether you find any new insights. Okay? So if you would, help me with that once we're done, please. Okay. Okay, with that. Is there a trick to this? Okay. Okay, while he's doing that, the first slide up here, I just wanted to tell you, since I'm in Ireland, and I really do appreciate CITA inviting me. It's been an honor, and it's actually been wonderful. You know, the tour of the Kells and the long room and everything. I mean, a couple of those were on my bucket list. I'm actually from a small county in Maryland, in the United States, County Wicomico. And we actually do it the other way around. But okay, good, thank you. Okay, but this is where I live. Okay, so actually the area, for what it's worth, has a population density of about 60% of Ireland, what Ireland's population density is. I work in I've come from I guess what would be now considered to be an SME, but I've stepped down twice in my career to much, much smaller firms, every time using this technology to leverage my work so that now I'm working as a one-person firm with outside people, and I do the same volume of work today as a one-person firm as I did when I had a staff of 50. Okay, so just as simple as that. It took a lot of years to figure out. I may be further down the road than some, but this technology does not depend on your location. It doesn't depend on your size. And for all the SMEs in the room, and just one more audience participation thing, would everybody who considers themselves to be a small and medium-sized enterprise raise your hand? So for all of you, I have one other charge. Pay close attention to what I'm going to talk about, because this is the leveling technology that lets you compete with the big boys, big girls. This is the technology that lets me do projects where there are 5,000 buildings all in one fell swoop as a one-person firm. Okay? This doesn't take away from those wonderful models of those 50,000 square meter buildings that maybe you have trouble getting normally. But this actually will level the playing field so that you can do the same thing. Okay? So, actually, let me back up here. One of the problems we have as an industry, we have actually created a situation where we're commodities. Our clients want to hire us at discount. They don't really want to pay us for what we consider to be the intrinsic value of our work. They negotiate to the bottom. We as architects and contractors and engineers have this tendency to sell to the bottom. We don't sell to our power and our strengths. And we have created that situation for a number of reasons. I put this guy up here because we create a situation where when everything is good, you had your Celtic Tiger. When everything's good, we're all looking for which model of BMW or Mercedes to buy. And then the next pass, we've got our cardboard sign out trying to figure out how to get somebody to pay me 50 cents for my advice. And what's happened, what has come to pass in the business, and I don't think it's new, but what's come to pass is that most of the things that affect our lives are being made by other people who don't necessarily have the information or even the knowledge or skills to be making the decisions about the things that affect us. They're actually making decisions on money and who's going to do what. You know, I want to buy X amount of design services, or I want to buy X square feet of concrete for foundations, without really having a clue what these decisions are all about. We're actually in a business that people who don't really understand the business necessarily are leading us to the train wrecks. And you know, I've come to believe that the politicians and the government officials who are in those positions are making these decisions, but we really can't blame them because we don't actually give them enough information to make good decisions. Okay, so what I'm really talking about now today is actually this business getting into the point where we're helping the people who make decisions about our lives actually have the data and have the information they need to make better decisions. Okay, we as a group, if we cannot help the politicians and the government facility managers and all those other people, the large owners, all those people we work for, if we cannot get them to the point where they have the data to make good decisions, we should stop complaining when the train wrecks happen. Okay, this chart, and you know, I don't spend a whole lot of time on it. The real critical thing on this chart is there's a red line that's kind of going to the bottom. There's a green line that's going up, and right at the intersection is the CITA BIM gathering. Okay, and you notice a little tiger print. That's the the Celtic tiger. That's that short period of time, and then that sort of grayish area in the middle. That's where we've been recently. We are at a turning point, I believe, and this turning point's been coming for 2 or 3 years now. But we're at a turning point where we can continue on the path of little BIM, and I will tell you, I've been circulating in this for all day yesterday. There's not a product in this show that's not little BIM, no matter what anybody wants to tell you. Little BIM has nothing to do with how large the process is. There's some really cool things here. There's some really cool products. I've seen some really cool buildings shown, but I've seen nothing in this show that's anything but little BIM. It's my contention, based on 30 years of going down this road and having fought the CAD wars and all those other things, that the continued reliance on little BIM, which is what you're seeing in the show, is actually going to not change our productivity in a measurable way. The industry's productivity has been declining ever since computers were introduced. And the continued reliance on this and the continued focus on this is going to actually not change our productivity. We will have better projects. We'll have projects that tend to come in better under budget and all that kind of stuff, but it will not correct the endemic problem. The only way to correct the endemic problem is to move to what I call big BIM, and that's what we're getting ready to talk about. So big BIM, let's talk about what that really means. We have to start being able to fluidly move between data at many different levels of resolution. We can no longer, focus just on a door detail or a window detail. We have to actually be able to move through cleanly, without training, through many levels of detail. We have to be able to move from a global view and get the data that's appropriate and applicable to the global view. We have to move to the site view, to the building view, to the floor view, and actually right down to the equipment level in a way that anybody with minimal or no training can get to the data. If you think about it and back up to this whole concept of the politicians and the people who make decisions have to get to the data, if they cannot get to your information at whatever level they need, I'll just use my clients as examples here. If the Commandant of the United States Coast Guard cannot sit in front of Congress and pull up the status of a derelict building in Anchorage, Alaska, when the congressman from Alaska is asking him about why the heck are we funding that building, we are not doing our jobs. I won't put you on the spot, so I won't ask if there's anybody in here who could actually deliver that to their clients, but that's what we have to deliver, okay? Big BIM is about really not just talking the talk, but actually walking the walk of doing life cycle work in the cloud. And we could get a conversation started right now with the Autodesk dealer and the Graphisoft dealer and all those people about how it's not possible to do their models in the cloud. And that may well be true, and at some levels it is true, but there's many, many truths here. And it is possible to take the data in all the models of your building, use it over the life cycle, access it, visualize it, use it in the cloud on any device that's around, any device you might think of. Use the data for unexpected purposes across disciplines. So if you think with this slide, GIS is using the information in one way, they're coming at it from one direction. You know, the BIM world is coming at it from a different direction. So in the BIM world, the carpet is related to sustainability and LEED in the United States area, the LEED kind of issues. In the GIS world, it's more about where the source of the carpet is. GIS really is archiving data. BIM is creating data more. You know, it's all those things. But all those things are interacting with each other, interrelating with each other in this environment. In this environment, you can think of Big BIM as kind of this central point where all the data goes through a central hub from many, many different sources. I'll show you some examples shortly, but you know, we're taking data from clients' business operations, from their financial controls, from their capital budgeting, and we're connecting that to their data in their legacy CAD files and connecting that to their BIM files and connecting that to their GIS data. And what ends up happening is I could stand up here for an hour and I could give you specific examples of uses for that data once you start connecting it like that. But what the absolute coolest thing is that we do when we're using this stuff is we find that there's all these unexpected things. There's things that we had never planned on happening that happen. We find out that, you know, I've told this story to 15 people now, so, you know, if you've all heard this, you know, just somebody yell at me. But we've got a school client. One of the small states in the United States has one person, one woman, who's in charge of managing the capital funding for schools for the whole state. She's kind of the linchpin for the whole system. If it doesn't get through DESPINA, it doesn't get done. You don't get the money to do it, okay? One of DESPINA's hardest jobs is the legislature requires her every year to reevaluate how many janitors they should have in each school. And the schools game the system, as you might expect, you know, to get more janitors. You know, you always want more people, right? And they'll do things like take a wide corridor and put a few desks in it and put some computers on it and call it a computer room, you know, all those kind of things. So it typically, in one of the school districts that she administers, takes a month for her to go through the process of negotiating and verifying and calculating. Because the legislature's also created this really arcane computation that ties into this. When I came to understand what DESPINA was going through, we took a model for one of the schools we were prototyping within her system, and in 2.5 hours, we were able to connect the data between the rooms and the room use, connect the data for her, how she does the calculation, and connect the data that had been verified as to what is actually going on in that room, all in the cloud, and we were able to do the computation that normally took her a month. You know, she told me about it one afternoon. The next morning she had the computation in her hand, and the next day she started working on the procurement to hire us to do the whole state. Okay, that was like, that happened that day, got lucky, you know, we were in the right place at the right time, but without these technologies we couldn't have done this. Now, I suspect if I had everybody stand up who believed anything I've just been saying, half of the room, at least, well, 80% of the room would stand up, much of the room. But we actually started doing this in 2002. In 2008, we started doing prototypes of this, which have now evolved into these actual real projects. And we call these prototypes BIM storms. Okay, BIM storms are, they're really, basically BIM storms, people underwrite them. We do have sponsors for BIM storms, so BIM storms are not zero cost. But BIM storms, basically all the participants do them for free. It's the least expensive, by far, approach to experience this, the power of this technology, and that's why we do it. You see the numbers up there. Hopefully they're big enough that everybody can read them. You know, we've done it all over the place. I mean, typically we'll have people participating from at least 5 continents in one of these. We've had as many as 400 people concurrently working in these. We've done about, as you can see, 46 million square meters of space in BIM storms at this point. They've been done on everything from master planning at the urban planning level to designing green roofs on parking garages and nearly everything in between. We've actually even used them to manage a volunteer house build in Tijuana, where they do these, they go out and a bunch of volunteers build a house for a family in Tijuana in one day. You know, it's we've done, BIM storms have done, we've done anything you can imagine in BIM storms. But we use them because it's the most inexpensive way for people like you and me to get our hands on these tools before our clients actually put them in place. So it's a way to really start getting into this. And you know, it involves data exchanges and all the other things. These big BIM ecosystems, basically the term we're putting on these now is big BIM ecosystems, okay? Because they're really an ecosystem of things. They tie all kinds of stuff together. Typically, and I'm not going to get into a whole lot of software and naming companies and stuff up here, the Enuma system, in what we do at least, is the core of this. The Enuma model server sits in the middle of it. These systems use established standards. They use the same standards that Expedia and Google and Yahoo and all those people use largely. They're pretty much XML. You know, they're one of the many flavors of XML kind of floating underneath all this. And but the other piece is they're also compliant with all the stuff that Building Smart is doing. So they're also able to, they're also taking in and spitting out IFCs, taking in, spitting out COBE, all those kind of things. So these are standards compliant, standards connected tools. They work with practically anything. Literally the only things that won't work in this, even down to pencil and paper, are the tools that don't play well with others. I think all of us probably have 1 or 2 software packages where you know the software package only talks to itself. If you've got any software package that can talk to anything on the internet, it pretty much works in this environment. Okay, let's change horses a little bit, or back up to the bigger picture. All of you, can I have a show of hands now for everybody who's seen the curve that shows how BIM front loads the design and construction process? Is there anybody who hasn't? Or I guess there's a few people who haven't. Yeah, so there's this curve out there that in the early days we worked with, and it's called the McClemmy curve, where it basically shows how by adopting BIM, the design and construction process really front loads, right? It's the curve that if you're a smart architect, you're going to your client and showing it to them and explaining why you want them to pay you 50% of your fees in schematics. Okay, it's that curve. This curve, which is really intended for a different purpose, but this curve is a whole lot more important for the construction industry. Because to me, this curve is how the construction industry really works. This is that whole, you know, buy the Mercedes when you're up and pull out your cardboard sign when you're down curve, right? This is done 4 times since I've been working. You know, it's going to happen more. It's going to happen again. Well, the whole idea here is what we're trying to do is flatten this curve out. That other curve is important in a kind of a microcosm. This is the curve that I want to flatten. You know, I may be a one-man firm, but I really do want to change the world. This is the world we need to change, guys and gals, because This world is what really makes it terrible when we have all these big up and down cycles, and we will continue to have them. Well, these tools, these are the tools that allow us to change that. Now, up on the screen right now, you see a kind of parsing out of what's happening with Yelp in the Yelp environment. I challenge you when you leave here, go to yelp.com and look at this, and I want you to tell me whether you think this is a just a web environment, or whether this is a design, construction, architectural environment. If you look at it, you go all the way from a dashboard of information, kind of stuff that a lot of our clients like to see to be able to look at their finances, to a location, think in terms of that global positioning of your facilities, which you click on one of those dots in there, and brings up the location you're talking about, to facility data. Now you're rating you can actually get down to the point of rating the temperature and service in the restaurant or whatever facility you're looking at, and a whole lot more. People are doing what I'm talking about doing all over the place. I'm not talking, it seems like in an architecture and construction kind of environment, it seems like I'm standing up here talking about something weird or unique, but the reality is this is being done all over the place, all over the internet. We're just sometimes, I think, too stupid to get it. I don't know how else to describe it. We're just too stupid to get it. As a profession and as an industry, we just aren't thinking outside of our little box. These things are being done every day. Your 12-year-old daughter is probably absolutely fluent in this. Your 80-year-old grandmother may be fluent in this. And yet, us highly educated, highly trained architects and designers and engineers don't get it. Okay? But this is what we really need to compete with. We need to be in a position where we are connecting many devices. We should not, there is no reason for us to be in the position that we have to depend on a desktop or a laptop or anything. We should be able to get to our data anywhere and however we need to do it. We need to embrace all comers. We need to, instead of this argument about is Graphisoft better or worse than Revit, all those kind of things, we need to be embracing all of these applications, all these powerful, wonderful tools that the manufacturers have created for us. And we need to be able to, instead of fighting about it, we need to be able to take the data from it and use it for our clients so that our clients can make the kind of decisions we need them to make so that we can do our jobs. Okay? And that technology is here. Any of you that have got a plane ticket, I can tell you right now, Expedia is big BIM. Okay? Okay, so let me show you, I'm going to show you some examples here. Just talk about some of the people who are actually doing this. And I will say, and I'll try to repeat this one at the end, but the three clients or the three groups I'm going to show you now, all of them are interested in, they're all looking for others to jump on the wagon with them or on the train with them. And just in case I forget it at the end or get run off, if you want to talk to me or drop me an email, all these people that I'm getting ready to show you would be very happy to talk to you about their spin on this, why they did it, how they did it, why it's important to their businesses, all those good things. So there's an open invitation out there if you want to talk to them. I'm just a highly prejudiced architect standing up here, but if you want to talk to the real thing, just let me know. Okay, California community colleges. California community colleges, I have to say, was the first full-bore implementation of what I call Big BIM. California community colleges, 2.4 million students. Just for what it's worth, when I looked it up on Expedia or on Wikipedia, I guess it was, about twice the population of Dublin. Their facilities mass up to about 440 Guinness storehouses. Put it in context, you know? So we're talking about a significant operation. They moved from a series of open standard databases and legacy things like their CAD files were in a managed way, so they had all their CAD files, you know, so they were listed out in the database and things like that. They went from that system with GIS and all those things. They went from all those databases that pretty much all significant clients have to 5,200 BIMs overnight using Big BIM. Basically, when you start moving into this environment, you can actually create building information models that are computable, usable for decision making, and contain owner type data. You can literally create the models directly from owner data. You can literally take a spreadsheet that lists rooms with their square footages, you know, length and width of rooms, that kind of just a long tabular list, and I can literally create a building information model directly from that data. Okay? And I can create a building information model directly from GIS building outlines and several other ways. You can absolutely move from zero to BIM inexpensively and at high volume. We have done cities, entire cities that have building footprints in less than half an hour. And we can actually, with today's technology, we can actually take a city that has a good GIS database, and we can go from a GIS system to a functioning BIM system effectively instantaneously. In California community colleges, they're managing 120,000 rooms. Okay, if you put them end to end, they would go 1,100 kilometers, which is like, what, 2.5 times the length of Ireland. So that, you know, it's a significant effort. Their information gets mashed up, and I'm going to have to move on because I'm actually taking too long here. But let me just flip through these. The information, and it's in many formats. It does not limit anything. The architects and the engineers are still working the way they work. We send information out to Revit or to ArchiCAD or to Tekla or to many other things. The architect and engineer works on it, develops it. It's pushed back into the system, and the data that's needed from the Big BIM standpoint is retained. Okay, so I just wanted to, this is one, I'll do this as quickly as I can. We've got a long history of only paying attention to the tip of the iceberg. Okay, we don't really worry about what's below, what's not part of our job. We don't really worry about the things that don't affect us personally. And we've actually been in a situation for many, 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 many years where we don't pay attention to stuff that's, you know, below the waterline. In this world of Big BIM and big data, we've got to stop doing that, and we have now the tools that we can actually, even when we're doing our job that's really focused above, you know, up in, you know, the tip of the iceberg, we actually can have all those things below the waterline impacting and working on our information. But to do that, we've got to get to a simpler, easier to understand, cleaner way to do business. And that's what really Big BIM is all about. And with that, I thank you, and I'm going to let Laura come up here and